As a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I've seen in my practice a lot of children with chronic health conditions. It's really challenging and can be traumatic for both the child and the family to raise a child with chronic health conditions such as diabetes, autism, even ADHD is chronic, depression, eating disorders, and on we go. I can go on and on with the cancer, autoimmune disorders, cardiac issues, chronic asthma. I've had a couple, even personally. Um, so I'm not just talking from the perspective or just, research. There's a lot of research behind the trauma that comes along with having a child and acknowledging the grief of what that looks like, especially if the child have a lot of mental health, anxiety, depression, a mix of it, behavior issues, dysregulation, aggression, avoidance, struggle at school, bullying, not being able to keep up with grades, all the stuff, and you yourself as a parent, your inner self is thrown off from having to adjust your mindset, pivot your mindset to rally services for the child. But in the midst of it, you have to rally services and support for you as well as a parent, whether it's therapy, community for you and for the child. There's a lot of, just so you know, there's a lot of, like, if your child who has disorderly eating, has autism spectrum, because of course it's a spectrum. There are some children with autism that grow up to be complete independent, do stuff. They're a spectrum of it where they're nonverbal, they're aggressive, not engaged, isolated, but it's a spectrum. And early detection and early help is very important. It's not a thing you're going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to pray over it, I'm going to wish it away. No, you're going to not pray and wish it away. It's what it is about providing those support services for the child right away. Occupational therapy, regular therapy, support at school, accommodations, schools that are more pro children with disabilities. So there's less likelihood of bullying because there's normalizing of different symptoms there. And this might be hard for a lot of parents to accept, wanting to force, air quote, normal childhood for a child who might have severe disability, especially in the space of autism. And then beyond that, talking about the other conditions that I mentioned, but you have to seek support right away and be able to have these conversations as an ongoing thing in your home to validate that child and their worldview and put yourself in their shoes. Don't just yell and scream at them and shame them, or your own struggle with having a child with disability, the disappointment, the grief, acknowledging that as well, because the struggle is real. Or, if I didn't even mention a child who might be, uh, transitioning gender-wise. That's the real thing. You can't just bash them, shame them, guilt trip them, wish it away, pray for them, tell them they're possessed by the devil, blah, blah, blah. Especially in my culture, in my Ghanaian culture, African culture. Autism, gender transitioning is viewed as evil. They're possessed, da 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 da. And making this sweet child who has come to this world to, have their experience be destroyed, their psyche destroyed, their literal soul destroyed, because your lack of knowledge, your lack of willingness to see what you see, pretend and wanting to pray it away, fast it away, taking them to church to have the pastor lay a hand on them because you've been told they are possessed. Like, get a grip and realize that sometimes there's imbalances in chemicals in the brain, and these things are biological, genetic, chemical in nature, and it's okay, and accepting it and dealing with your own grief rather than projecting that grief onto that child. It's sad how some of these parents that just lack or mention kids with Down syndrome. They can be sweet, amazing, but you have to protect that support for them and support for you as a parent. Punishing, even with like things like in my culture, using pepper or ginger, opening their private part to put things in there to punish them. Corporal punishment. Why would you have to beat up your child for them to listen to you? If you have to beat up your child for you to, that speaks of your own trauma and what you have grown up to endure. Physical violence, being neglected physically and emotionally, on all the stuff, and now you are not embodying gentle parenting from a different perspective, breaking the generational cycle, and you're perpetrating it over and over to your children. Take a pause and look at it from that perspective. Go to therapy. Unpack what you have learned from your parent that hurt you. Don't perpetuate it. On and on you go, like you're pretending like it's not, and it is. That child has autism. That child has a learning disorder. That child has ADHD. You might need to put them on medications because their brain is not producing enough serotonin, dopamine, GABA, whatever it is. Sometimes it's a deficiency of it. Get a grip. Don't make everything about the lack of strength. Don't judge people when they need medication, because medication is another tool in the toolbox. Therapy is only the only thing. You can talk about it all you want, but if you're not taking intentional, actionable steps, and you're only focusing on one aspect, shaming, praying, wishing it away, then you're kind of like delulu. I'm sorry to say, but it just irks me to see that, especially in my culture, but globally as well. We have to accept the grief, the adjustment, the pivoting that we need to do when we have children with disability. Okay, love you, bye.